If you guys have any questions that pop up during the presentation, just a reminder, raise your hand and I'll answer questions as we go too, so it can be a little bit more interactive if you guys do have those questions. But basically this is going to be how to track. It's a big skill and it takes some time and effort to learn, and most people suck at it. So let's try to tighten up those skills and make it so that at least our clients are really, really good at it. Okay, so there's a hierarchy of tracking. Food scale, I am going to say, is number one. It's the best way to track. It's the most accurate way to track. And I feel like that's literally the quickest way to get you to your goal. Measuring cups is probably second. It's not as accurate as a food scale, but they are still pretty dang accurate, so they're good. Finding something similar to track on a food tracker app, it's a decent option. It's not the most accurate, but it is a pretty good strategy. Using ChatGPT or AI, I think this is really good to use when you're like out to eat and at restaurants. I wouldn't recommend using it all of the time, but it is a good strategy to use as well. On the hand method, I hate this method. I don't even know why I put it in this presentation, but there's a hand method. And using your best guess. So it's better than not tracking at all, but it's not something that you should rely on or do. And then the worst way of tracking is just not tracking at all, especially if you have like a fat loss goal. All right, so how to measure with a food scale. So basically what you want to do is turn on the food scale, set the unit to either grams or ounces. For some reason, I like measuring everything in grams other than meat. I like measuring that in ounces because for some reason in my brain, it makes sense that I should be eating like 4 to 8 ounces of meat, but with grams, it doesn't just translate into my brain over like that. So that's kind of how I like doing it, but everything else I weigh in grams. And so first, you're going to place your plate or bowl or container on top of the scale and then push 0. So that way it resets the scale to 0. And then you'll add the food until the scale shows the amount you want. So like if you're weighing something and you want 120 grams of it, just weigh it until it says 120 grams. And then you record that amount into your tracker. And then if you want to add something else to it, then you can press the 0 on the scale again and then add more ingredients to it. So let's say you're making a sandwich and the bread is already like sliced for you. So you just log the bread and then you put the meat on. So you put the bread on the scale and then push 0, and then you'll add the meat in ounces, and then once you get up to like 4 ounces, then you can press 0 again. And then if you want to add like mustard to it, then you could do like 10 grams of mustard. That might be a lot. And then press 0 and then add mayo. And so that way you're adding each individual ingredient of the sandwich, instead of just being like, okay, I have a turkey sandwich, let's try to log all of that. But if you do it ingredient by ingredient, that's the most accurate way. And it's a little bit more tedious, but once you do it like a couple times, it becomes like second nature, and it's really not that hard, and it's pretty quick once you get it down. Also, some tips is to weigh raw foods. So just make sure that if you're doing cooked or raw, they're slightly different. So whatever you weigh it as, if you're weighing raw chicken, make sure you just log raw chicken. If you're weighing cooked chicken, just make sure you log cooked chicken. And then for oils and dressings, weigh in grams for best accuracy, and then put the scale on a flat, stable surface to avoid fluctuations. And then how to measure using measuring cups to track or measuring spoons. Basically, you just want to scoop it in, level it off. It's not a heaping scoop. That's the only thing that I wanted to mention here. It's pretty self-explanatory with measuring cups and spoons. For liquids, I would recommend getting kind of like a clear measuring cup that goes up, so that way you can kind of look at it at eye level and see if it's accurate, or to see how many ounces you need of that liquid, just because fluid ounces are a little bit different than other ounces. So measuring cups, not as accurate as a food scale, but they suffice. Another way is to find something similar in a food tracking app. So this is if you already made the food and you have it, or like maybe you're at a barbecue and somebody made a chicken casserole. So what you do is you would search chicken casserole in MyFitnessPal, and a bunch of different chicken casseroles are gonna pop up. They're good. There's gonna be some that are like super high, probably up towards like 800, 900 calories, and some super low that are close to like 100 calories. And I just want you to find someone like in the middle, and that's probably where your chicken casserole is at, or an amount that you see the most consistently. So let's say you see like an 800 calorie chicken casserole and then a 100 calorie chicken casserole, and then you see like 4 300 calorie chicken casseroles. Just pick the 300. That'll be good enough to log for that meal. But I'd always go with one right in the middle. I know a lot of people will just track the lowest amount. So if they're like finding tacos, they're just gonna, or they'll find like 100 calorie tacos and then log 3 to 5 tacos, rather like, so if they're logging 5 tacos at 100 calories, that's 500 calories, but typically a taco is a little bit more than that. So they could be eating twice the amount of calories, but only logging the lowest amount. And so that's where that gets tricky. So don't just pick the lowest amount every single time in MyFitnessPal. Try to find something in the middle. And then how to use AI/ChatGPT. This is one of my favorite ways to log while eating out. So you would say, I'm at this restaurant, and you can even go into specifics like where you're at. So you can be like, I'm at this restaurant in American Fork, Utah, and I'm going to eat this exact food. I'm going to eat 2 slices of this pizza, and I'm going to have this 0 calorie or sugar-free lemonade. About how many calories do you think, and how many grams of protein is in it? Then it will kind of be like, there's actually no nutrition facts for this restaurant. Then you can say, well, just give me your best guess, and then it will give you a good estimate on how much it thinks is in that meal. So that's a really good way to do it. But I would prefer that before you even go into the restaurant, you have an idea of what you're going to order beforehand and already pre-log it. And so I would recommend saying, I am going to this restaurant, what should I order that is 300 calories and 30 grams of protein? So that way you can go in with a plan that already fits the calorie amount you need and how many grams of protein you need. And it should pop out like a bunch of different options of what you can order to hit those 2 goals. And so that can be helpful. I think this is a better way to track it, is before, rather than while you're in the restaurant already have like ordered your food. And then also you can upload a photo to ChatGPT so it can visually see what you're eating, and it can help it. But if you upload, so if you're using like an AI tracker for food instead of like MyFitnessPal, and you're just uploading photos of your food for every single meal, this method is not accurate, and it's just going to give you guesstimates, and it's not going to help you with your fat loss goal. Like, it's just not going to be as accurate to get you to your fat loss goal as quickly as possible. It's an okay way to track things if you're in like a maintenance phase or stuff like that, but I wouldn't recommend using that for every meal, just for meals that you don't have the calorie information for and you don't want to take a food scale to the restaurant to use. Here's the hand method, the one that I hate. I think it's stupid, also because I have really small hands, and so I'm like, well, that's a ripoff. But basically, they say that the palm of your hand is how much meat you should eat, and that should be about 4 ounces, a 4-ounce serving. The left side is for male, right side is for women. Vegetables, 2 fistfuls. For women, it's 1 fistful. Carbs should be a scooped palm. So men get 2, women get 1, and then fats should be the full length of your thumb. Men get 2, women get 1, and I literally hate this so bad because I thought about using this hand method once, and I was like, so I get a thumb size of peanut butter, and that was really confusing for me. I'm like, how do I measure it in that like shape of a thumb? So I don't really like the hand method, but if you don't have access to your phone or an app or anything else, then it can help. But I've never used it, and I have never pushed anybody else to use it. All right, so how to measure a recipe that you make yourself. This is what Poe asked a couple weeks ago. and it's really tedious. But once you do it once, then you can save that recipe into your tracker app, and then you can come back and use it again. So if it's a recipe that you use a lot, then I would recommend doing it this way. If it's just a recipe that you're making one time and you're probably not going to make it again, then I would probably just find something in MyFitnessPal that is similar to it and use that method rather than tracking every single individual ingredient if you're not going to eat that a lot. But if it's a recipe you eat a lot, then it's worth it to take the time to follow this method and log it into MyFitnessPal. So basically what you do is measure every single ingredient in the recipe. So pound of chicken breast, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, cup of cooked rice, cup of broccoli, and then add everything into the food tracker app. So you add each individual ingredient and how much of each ingredient, and save it as a custom recipe or a meal in the app so you can reuse it later. And then you'll cook the recipe as normal, and then you'll weigh the entire dish once it is finished, and then you'll divide it into portions. So let's say the entire dish is 800 grams, and then you want 4 servings, you divide it by 4. So 200 grams would be 1 serving. And then you would log your portion when you eat it. So you would pull out 200 grams, weigh it, measure it, and then log 200 grams of that serving. So it's really tedious, but it is definitely worth it if you eat that or if you make that food a lot. Here, this method is better than nothing. So use your best guess. So still track, just guessing. And don't use this method unless you have literally no other option. And this actually is better than nothing because it's at least holding you somewhat accountable to what you're eating and how much you're eating. I know a lot of people will be like, well, I went to a barbecue, it was too hard to track, so I just didn't track. Whereas if you were to track each thing and just kind of like guess how many calories you're eating or guess your serving sizes, you would definitely see the calories in your app move down, and that would make you aware of how many calories you are probably eating, and it would probably help hold you accountable so you don't eat as much or so you don't go as overboard as probably what you would have. And so it does hold you accountable, and there's kind of like a mental aspect to it. It's like, okay, well, this might not be super accurate, but I think I only have like 200 calories left, so I'm probably not going to have the 5 slices of pizza. I'm just going to have 1. So it can help hold you accountable. So I still recommend eyeballing and guessing portion sizes when you don't have a food scale or anything else, or if you're kind of crammed on time. So I always recommend tracking, especially if your goal is fat loss. Obviously, if you are in the maintenance phase and we're working on not tracking, then you don't have to worry about that. How to track even when you're busy. I hear this excuse a lot, and I don't want to hear this excuse ever again. You're not too busy, you're just not prioritizing it. Tracking really doesn't take that much time, especially if you're kind of like guessing what you're eating. And so I want you guys to really prioritize it because you are literally like paying us to be here, and we want to help you get results, and we want to help you get there to your goal as quickly as possible. But yeah, nobody's too busy. We work with a lot of busy adults who are still tracking their food. You just need to make sure that you prioritize it. Some ways to help with this when you are busy is just pre-log your day. So the night before, log like 80% of your day, leave like a 20% leeway. And so let's say your calorie goal is like 2,000 calories, you can log up to like 1,700 calories, 1,800 calories. And so that way you already have a plan going into the next day if you know that you're going to have a busy day ahead. And then you have kind of like a 200 calorie leeway. So if somebody like brings a treat that you didn't plan, or you wanted to add something a little bit more to one of the meals, then you can have that a little bit of like flexibility of like those 200 extra calories. So pre-logging is a really good tool, and you can use this even on days when you're not busy, just to have a plan going into the next day, and it makes life a lot easier. Also track what you can and don't track perfectly. So this is kind of what I was saying, is it's better to just guess what you're eating rather than be super accurate with it versus not tracking at all. So track when you can, even if it's not perfect. And then another thing that can help is just using repeat meals. So that way, you know, like, okay, I'm going to eat this for breakfast. I'm going to hurry and like log that in. And that will take you like 10 seconds to like open the app, add in your breakfast from the day before, and then move on to with your day. So if you repeat your meals, that can make tracking a lot easier. And that's kind of what I do. I'm a creature of habit. So I can eat the same thing for breakfast for like years on end, and it doesn't affect me. And so that is definitely an easier method. Then you can also take a photo of what you're eating and then log it later when you have time. So if you're at a barbecue, you're chasing kids around, you don't really have time to log right in that moment, just take a picture of what you're eating. Then once you get home and right before bed, just take like 5 minutes to go back, look at the pictures, and then log everything. So those are some strategies there. Alrighty, now we have a Q&A. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Wow, I did such a good presentation that nobody has any questions about tracking. All professionals. Okay.
No, you did. I will say that, you know, early on for me, it was very hard and I did suck at it. And I know I asked a lot of questions, but I mean, really, it's just being consistent. You know, everything you showed here, and you just gotta understand that, you know, it takes time. It's like everything else. You know, people quit this kind of stuff for a lot of reasons. It's like you not only have to learn how to work out right, but you know, it's not as simple as just putting crap in an app. You know what I mean, or saying that you ate this or whatever. You have to be. One of the hardest things to do is be truly honest. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like you have to be honest, and but that'll get you there quicker. And just yeah, doing it every day, like we did. Eventually, it became, I don't want to say fun, but like it just became part of my day. You know what I mean? And it was that's also when the weight really started coming off too. So
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I think with when I'm in like Fight Hansen and tracking like really strictly, I think the funnest thing for me is like, how can I work in a treat today while still hitting my protein goal and my calorie goal? Like, I think it's kind of like a game for me. So I'll do that. I'll try to add like crumble cookie in or like a scoop of like ice cream or something, go to Salt and Straw. So that way I'm still adding like fun foods in and I'm still able to like lose weight and make weight for my fights. So that's kind of how I look at it. And then I think tracking is hard for people because it's actually holding them accountable to what they're eating, because you can, if you're not being honest with your tracking, your body is going to show that, right? So it's like you have to hold yourself accountable to it. And then if you are being as accurate as possible with your tracking and your body's not changing, that's when we know we need to make tweaks to your programming. So you can't just outsmart tracking or kind of like lie with your tracking and still see good progress. You have to be like incredibly honest with it, because your body is going to like tell you whether or not like you are tracking well. So that's another thing to look into too. Okay. April says, what about using fat to cook chicken, like oils? So you would just measure out how many, like if you use like 2 tablespoons, you would use 2 tablespoons of oil and then dump it in the pan and then cook your chicken. And that's kind of like how I would recommend doing it. So you just log the 2 tablespoons of oil instead of just kind of like eyeballing how much oil you're going to pour in. You just measure it out and then add it to the chicken. And then if you are dividing it into multiple servings, so then you would just divide the 2 tablespoons of oil into 4 servings if you're making like 4 servings of chicken. Okay.
Yeah. Do you prefer butter to oil? Olive oils?
I think either is fine. I think fat has gotten a bad rap in the fitness world. I think either is fine to cook with. It's kind of like what you go off of and what your taste buds prefer, but I don't think butter is bad for you, and I don't think olive oil is bad for you. I think olive oil is actually like really good for you, and I think it's good to have fats in your diet because it helps with hormone regulation and brain health and stuff like that. So it's kind of just goes off of what you prefer to cook with. So yeah. It's kind of like working in foods that you like into your diet, into your calories. As long as you feel like it's worth, like the calories are worth it to you, then you can do it. So you can use like olive oil or butter to cook with, but you could also use like the 0-calorie butter spray and like spray it onto your vegetables and then air fry it there. So there's different ways that you can do it, because I don't think it's worth it for me to put butter on my vegetables and season them. I like that 0-calorie spray and like air fry them, and that makes it like much more worth it to me because I'm not adding extra calories to my vegetables. So, but with like other things that like actually make it taste good, I do like olive oil on like asparagus and like baking that. So I think that is worth it in that case, those little extra calories, but it kind of just depends on you and what you're wanting.
So question about, so I'm like obsessed with tracking. So it is way part of my day, but then by lunchtime, because I have such a small amount of calories in my thing, that I am so obsessed and panicked like from lunch on about dinner, because I only have, let's say, like sometimes by the end of the day, even though I'm eating good, I only have like 400 calories left.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to know what to eat. And then, so tracking it is almost, I don't know. I mean, it's,
yeah,
I'm so obsessed with it.
Yeah, no, it can add some anxiety, but it also helps hold you accountable to kind of like how much you're eating throughout the day to get you to your goal. So there's like pros and cons there, because you don't want to become like so obsessed with it that it becomes more of like disordered eating. So with that, what can help is just pre-logging your day beforehand, so that way you don't get to lunch and you've already eaten majority of your calories. So if you take like 5 to 10 minutes the day before and kind of like make a plan, be like, I want to eat this for dinner, so I'm going to maybe eat a little bit lighter for lunch or breakfast so I can have like a heftier dinner, and maybe that'll help you not have so much anxiety, because you are eating throughout the day, maybe a little bit smaller meals, and then for dinner you can have a bigger dinner. But you pre-logged your calories beforehand, so that takes the stress out of it. And you're like, as long as I stick to this plan, I can have this big dinner in the night, and I am happy with that. So I think pre-logging can help with that a lot. And I should mention that tracking is not something that you're meant to be doing long term. So I don't track right now. I am happy with where my weight's at, and I'm pretty good at maintaining my body weight. And I only track when I have to make weight for fights. So it's not something that you should be doing long term. It's something to get you to your goal as quickly as possible. So it's just a tool to use. And then once you get all the way to your goal, we do put you through a reverse diet. So that's where we slowly add calories back into your diet and get you back up to maintenance calories. And then we'll put you through a maintenance phase. So that's where we wean you off of tracking and teach you a more mindful approach to nutrition, where you can maintain your results without having to track. And so that's always the goal, is to get you to a place where you can maintain your body without having to track. So although it can be stressful and it can be hard and annoying, it's just a tool to get you to your goal as quickly as possible. So it's not something that you should ever feel like you have to do the rest of your life. That makes sense? Does that help at all, or no? Susan, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did.
Cool. And then also something that helps me when I am like cutting for fights is just having a lot of like 0-calorie drinks. And so that way it feels like I'm like getting something sweet, but I'm not adding more calories, or if they are, they're like 10 calories or something like that. So that's something that can also help. April did say a funny comment about her question. She says, I measure the oils with my heart, especially when cooking for my kids. So that's a hard one for me. Yeah, so when you do have a fat loss goal, it's hard to, so with fats especially, it's such a little amount can have so many calories that it is important to actually weigh and measure those. And so that can get tricky. So I would recommend getting in the habit of actually like weighing that and then adding it, so you're not accidentally adding like extra 100 to 200 calories with those oils in there that you weren't planning on tracking. So that can get a little tricky there. Anybody else have any questions? Does anybody have any questions that aren't related to tracking? Any like fitness questions? Any relationship? Anybody need any relationship advice?
We don't have enough time.
I was just going to ask, since seen a lot of calorie deficit things on my feed recently. So I wanted to ask what that was, just because I'm really new to fitness and I really don't understand that.
So a calorie deficit, what that means is you're burning more calories than what you're eating every single day. So that puts you into a deficit. So that means your body is using fat instead of the food that you eat to survive. And so that will help you burn fat, and that helps you with like your fat loss goal. If you aren't eating enough protein and you're not exercising, that can just be a way to lose weight, which isn't healthy. So you could be losing like muscle and like stuff that you actually need to. So if you do weight train and you eat enough protein, then it would be more of a fat loss rather than a total weight loss. But there is maintenance calories. So that means you are actually eating as much as you're burning every single day. And that's where you're maintaining your body weight. That's kind of what I'm doing right now. There is a calorie surplus. So my boyfriend is bulking right now. And so he's eating more calories than what he's burning every single day. And so he's trying to put on body weight and muscle. And then the calorie deficit is where you are eating less calories and burning more calories throughout the day. So you're losing fat. Does that make sense?
Yeah. As to that, I do want to know, like, how do you calculate that? Like, how much you have to?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to say, and that's kind of like what we do with the coaching. So for those of you who don't know Gabby, she's my virtual assistant, so she's a VA. So she's not actually a client in the program, so that's why she's asking. So we calculate that for you in the program, so we can take that thought work out. And it's a calculation, and bodies are different. So unfortunately, your body's more than a math number, and so we'll put in a formula and make a calculation, but it isn't necessarily how your body is going to respond. So on top of that, the coaching, that's where coaching comes in, and we'll make adjustments. So we'll give you a good like base to start out with that calculation, and then we'll make adjustments as we go depending on how your body responds. Because if you're more stressed, it can throw things for a loop. If you're not sleeping well, if your hormones are out of whack, if like you're not as active as what we thought you were, or if you're more active than what we thought you were, all of that can play a role in how many calories you need. But just a quick little way to kind of like track that or try to like guess where your thing is just go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I am a 28-year-old woman and I'm moderately active. How many calories and how many grams of protein should I eat each day? And then it will spit out a number for you. And you have to say your height too. You can say, I'm 5 foot tall and 140 pounds. How much should I be eating to lose about 1 to 2 pounds a week? And then it will kind of like spit out some information for you. So that way you don't have to go do the hard calculation and do math, but that's a really, really easy way to give you a good like baseline at where you want to be. But on top of that, you'll have to make adjustments just because your body is more than that calculation.
Awesome, thanks.
You're welcome. Good question. Anybody else have any questions? No? Yes? No? Great. Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks for hopping on. I don't know if you guys saw, but Ricky was the winner of last month's fitness challenge. We do have that step challenge going on this month. And so it's hitting your step goal plus 1,000 steps. How's that going for you guys? You doing good? We got a thumbs up. We got a couple thumbs up, Susan and Kim. Nobody else got a thumbs up. Lacey, are you doing it?
I haven't. I think the first week I was going through stuff, so I just eliminated myself from this challenge.
Okay. Well, you can hop in if you want to. But yeah, the winner gets a pair of athletic shoes. So keep doing it and keep showing up. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Well, you guys are awesome. Thanks for hopping in on here, and hopefully you learned something new.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks.